I don't want this to be a doom and gloom episode, but I do want to share some of the headwinds facing first-time homebuyers in today's market and think about solutions to help them along the way. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Creative Real Estate Ownership. My name is Josh Silverman, and today we'll explore some of the root causes of today's housing affordability crisis and how we can help first-time homebuyers moving forward. There are ways to get into this market, so please email me and let's talk solutions. For generations, buying a home was the defining milestone of adulthood in America. Graduate, get a job, buy a house, start a family. But something has fundamentally changed. In 2025, the median age of a first-time homebuyer hit 40 years old, the highest ever recorded. That's not a small shift. That's a full decade later than their parents and more than a decade later than their grandparents. So today, I want to answer 3 questions. Number 1, how much harder is it to buy a home now compared to the past? Number 2, if young people aren't buying homes, where's their money going instead? And finally, 3, what does all this mean for wealth building, family formation or the lack thereof, and the future of the U.S. economy? Because this isn't just a housing story. In 1991, the typical first-time home buyer was 28 years old. By 2020, that age had risen to 33. By 2022, it jumped to 36. By 2024, 38, and now it sits at the age of 40. What's important here is speed. This wasn't a slow cultural shift where people decided they preferred renting. This was a post-pandemic affordability shock. According to the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, first-time buyers now make up just 21% of the market. That's roughly half their share before the 2008 housing crash. Meanwhile, older homeowners, especially those who locked in low mortgage rates before 2022, are sitting on quite a bit of equity. Jessica Lauch, NAR's deputy chief economist, put it bluntly, quote, "We're seeing buyers with significant housing equity making larger down payments and all-cash offers while first-time buyers continue to struggle to enter the market," end quote. This is no longer a single housing market, it's 2 completely different ones. So why is this happening? It's not just high mortgage rates, and it's definitely not the avocado toast and fancy lattes that are often blamed for the lack of savings by young people. Today's first-time buyers face multiple structural barriers at the same time. First, rents. Higher rents absorb income that previous generations could save toward a down payment. Second, prices. Home prices have risen far faster than wages, especially in job-rich metros like here in the Bay. Third, mortgage rates. Rates really spiked from the lows we experienced just a few years back. And fourth, supply. Local zoning rules, slow permitting, and high construction costs have created a persistent shortage of starter homes. And here's the key difference from past generations. Earlier buyers usually faced one problem at a time: high prices or high rates or lack of supply. Today's buyers face all of them at once, while competing against equity-rich homeowners who can afford higher down payments and are less price sensitive, along with their ability to bring all-cash offers to the table. Redfin economist Daryl Fairweather summed it up well, quote, "Even when mortgage rates were high in the 1980s, prices were much lower relative to income. Today's affordability crunch is far more severe," end quote. Delaying homeownership isn't neutral, it's expensive. According to NAR, buying your first home at 40 instead of 30 can mean losing roughly $150,000 in equity on a typical starter home. And it's probably a lot more in the Bay Area, to be honest. And that's just the first property. Buying later often means fewer moves over a lifetime and smaller trade-ups. Meanwhile, homeowners who bought earlier, especially before 2020, have seen historic equity gains. So housing wealth is getting harder to build and is often inherited rather than earned. That's a profound shift for a country where homeownership has been the primary way the middle class builds wealth. So if young people are not buying homes, where's the money going? This is where the cultural shift gets interesting. Writer Kyla Scanlon uses the phrase aspirational displacement. The idea is simple. When people can't afford traditional milestones like homes, family, and long-term stability, they still participate in the economy, but with fewer anchors. So money flows into rent, stocks and ETFs, crypto and speculative assets, and experiences and consumption that signal personal development over long-term planning. Scanlon puts it this way, quote, "When you feel shut out of institutions, you buy meme coins that turn financial nihilism into a form of cultural expression," end quote. This isn't irrational behavior, it's adaptive. But these alternatives do not replace what homeownership provided at scale, which is stability, forced savings, community attachment, and long-term wealth compounding. The consequences are now showing up everywhere. In the rental markets, when more people rent for longer, demand rises. In supply-constrained cities, that pushes rents even higher, making it even harder to save. 1/3 of Bay Area residents say they are delaying children because of finances, citing housing as their primary concern. Homeownership used to underwrite family formation. As access erodes, so does population growth. And finally, social stability. Homeownership has historically been tied to civic engagement, community investment, and middle-class formation. When access to that system narrows, inequality widens, and trust in institutions weakens. This isn't just a housing affordability issue. It's a wealth distribution issue, and a demographic issue, and ultimately a social stability issue. So now for the good news, we will continue to be creative in terms of how we choose and afford housing here. I hope that we can also increase the supply of housing, because that will help too. These are important trends that I will continue to keep an eye on and share with you. So thank you for joining me today, and be well.